Bricky here tonight, breaking down something that I have to ask you. I have a question for you. With Smugglers Run changing next summer, giving you the availability to go on different Star Wars adventures, giving Millennium Falcon the same competitive edge over Star Tours, does that put Smugglers Run in a position to not one day too far away replace Star Tours? Today we're going to break down what is the future for Smugglers Run and how does that affect the long-term future for Star Tours. I know this one's not going to make a lot of you happy, but let's break it down.
Hey friends, before we get started with today's video, make sure you subscribe to Hey Bricky. Next week, we're discovering Disneyland's abandoned police department, and I know you don't want to miss out. Subscribe today to Hey Bricky. I appreciate it. Now let's get started with today's adventure.
Star Tours is the beginning of Disney collabing with Star Wars and at the time, George Lucas. When it showed up in 1987, it was an instant fan favorite. Two entertainment powerhouses were officially working together. It was also the Disneyland Resort's first ever motion simulator. This was the first time that Disney fans would get to interact with video screen technology to take them on adventures that still sets just couldn't quite deliver. And a benefit of this technology is it allowed Disney to add in scenes from recent Star Wars films and recently even Disney Plus series. Essentially, fans would trade off amazing real-world sets like what we see in Pirates of the Caribbean for the screens that would be able to be adaptive to new adventures, therefore allowing Disney to create an attraction that could always bring guests back to deliver a new experience that was always uniquely Disney but distinctly Star Wars. Smugglers Run would show up when Star Wars Galaxy's Edge would open in 2019, and it would use this same concept but in a much more immersive way. Instead of being in a crew of 36 people, it would be you and 5 of your closest friends that would get to pilot the Millennium Falcon. Therefore, for the first time ever, the guest was put in control of their Star Wars adventure. But the one part that Smugglers Run didn't quite get right is that it only had one adventure, and it was a video game based ride. You're flying around on a smuggler's mission, and to be honest, it just didn't have the same narrative or sort of edge that Star Tours had always provided. But I think that is getting ready to change. Because instead of being stuck on a singular mission that basically makes the attraction almost the same every time, Disney is now taking the marketing prowess once applied to Star Tours, and this time they're ignoring Star Tours, but instead applying it to Smugglers Run. Disney bet big with Smugglers Run. The guests would prefer interactivity over just sitting back and going on a Star Tour. However, the thing that Star Tours has always had over Millennium Falcon Smugglers Run is that the sequences were randomized. So you never really knew what adventure you were going on, but you were always guaranteed one thing. Where you would go would be familiar. It wouldn't be the Star Wars you never met before. It would be the Star Wars that you knew, the Star Wars that raised you. And even though on Smugglers Run you could be a pilot, gunner, or engineer, yay, engineer, it did give you the availability to feel like you were finally flying the Millennium Falcon. The only problem was the destination where you went, it just wasn't that exciting. It wasn't familiar. It wasn't like getting to fly the Millennium Falcon through Cloud City. That is going to be possible next year. And so really, the feather in the cap for Star Tours is that it was always kind of evolving. Every few years, they would add a new adventure to it, especially as Disney would end up owning Star Wars franchise. They would use it as a marketing machine to take you into areas that we would see in Force Awakens and other movies that don't make fans happy. And then last year, we saw Star Tours up its marketing game when first time ever it would feature characters from Disney Plus series, Ahsoka, Mandalorian, and Andor, making it now truly able to market the big screen, but most importantly, align with Disney's streaming service. But there was only one problem with this promotion, it didn't really draw in huge crowds, and the crowds that did draw in, they didn't last long. Nearly every time I've been at Hollywood Studios and I have walked past Star Tours there, it has been a 5-minute wait. When they just dropped those characters, me and 2 friends were able to ride the ride over and over again so we could experience all the sequences. We never had to wait once, and it was the week those new characters had just dropped. And Star Tours here at Disneyland often has a pretty short line. And I don't think it's a coincidence that each park that has a Star Tours is also the parks that got a Smugglers Run. And so the trick that had always been Star Tours' saving grace just didn't bring in the audiences like it had before. Could it be the guests now just see it as an antiquated attraction? And whereas things like Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion will never go out of style because they're classics, the problem with technology-based rides, technology is not classic. It's always evolving, it's a moving target, and technology that was really cool in the 80s starts to look long in the tooth in the 20s. If Star Tours has lost its appeal and ability to be a strong marketing device, has it lost its place in both parks? Hollywood Studios, as we know, has just said goodbye to Muppets to bring in a Monsters, Inc. land. And Star Tours sits right on the edge of that plot of land. Next to it is a bizarre eatery, and then around the bend is the Indiana Jones stunt show, which I also think is a little long in the tooth. As Disney is battling to win the Florida theme park wars, it's not impossible to think that their Star Tours at Hollywood Studios, that's just a few steps from Galaxy's Edge East, it could be something that's on the chopping block in the near future. And then let's talk Disneyland. Disneyland's Star Tours is inside of Tomorrowland. And of course, Disneyland's Tomorrowland, it's got to get updated at some point, right? I'm praying in the next decade it has to get updated. Like, it can't stay broken forever, right? Right? I'm asking, I'm not telling you. So could expanding the role of Smugglers Run to have it be a part of the Mandalorian promotion for the Mandalorian movie that'll come out next summer, is this a move to take everything that made Star Tours special, move it to Smugglers Run, which I'm going to say, for a brand new attraction and a state-of-the-art land, doesn't always have the most consistent ride time. There are times when this thing is a walk-on, which is crazy, because that's never the case with Rise of the Resistance. I have been here many of nights where the cast members are begging people to ride the ride. Star Tours was never like that after opening. So if Smugglers Run becomes the home to Disney trying to market Star Wars in their theme parks, because Rise of the Resistance is very much stuck in its moment in time, but Smugglers Run has the availability and ability to become nearly any adventure they want guests to be able to take inside of Galaxy's Edge. And with its interactive nature, to not only experience the latest TV series or movie, even better, live their own adventure with stories and characters familiar to them. Like, this thing is going to be maxed out when people know that flying this means getting to fly alongside Mandalorian and Grogu. It's going to absolutely make the popularity of this 10x for quite a while. And this ride is absolutely state of the art. When they built this attraction, they basically put in multiple turntables, so at any time there are several cockpits spinning around going on their own adventure. Sure, Star Tours holds more per vessel, but it takes so much longer to turn over a group. This was built to last, and I think this next evolution is going to make sure that it does. So with the somewhat fading popularity of Star Tours and Disney's massive investment in Smugglers Run and Galaxy's Edge, which so far has gotten a bit of a lukewarm reception, could making this the big marketing adventure machine for Star Wars fans a way to solve some of the problems with Galaxy's Edge. And I'll take it a step further. Was this always part of the plan? That after a few years, they would start to use this as a marketing machine. And they would start to do it when they knew that on the horizon, replacing Star Tours at Disney's Hollywood Studios and here at home at Disneyland was going to be something that they were going to be doing in the next decade. But as soon as I saw we'd be able to fly the Millennium Falcon to 3 destinations, familiar destinations, that made me think, man, oh man, if they give this ability to Smugglers Run, it's over for Star Tours. It has lost every competitive edge that it has other than nostalgia. And look, I'm never one to downplay the power of Disneyland nostalgia. However, are they going to let that nostalgia get in the way of retransforming Tomorrowland into something different? Are they going to let that nostalgia get in the way of keeping an awkward little corner of Star Wars just outside of Galaxy's Edge over at Hollywood Studios? I mean, maybe, because that exit where you see Buzz Lightyear. And I think kind of the ultimate test for me, and I'd love to know your opinion as well, is I kind of have wrote this attraction off. Like, it's on my list of, sure, I'll do it when people are in from out of town that really want to do it. But I distinctly remember being a kid and sitting in the hatchback of my mom's car because she was not a responsible woman. And I remember sitting in that hatchback, looking out the window at the sun setting. And I had just seen Empire Strikes Back for the first time. In my mind, that little bubble that I was looking through was me flying through Cloud City. And you know what? About 40-something years later, I'm going to get a chance to do it. But this time, not in the back of my irresponsible mom's hatchback, but in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon. That gets me back on this attraction and puts in real nostalgia for me. The movies that raised me, the movies that made me fall in love with Star Wars are now finally in the place where I celebrate my love for Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge. Now, this transformation isn't going to happen overnight, but it will be happening next summer, and I would love to know, what do you think about this? And most importantly, what is your personal prediction? Like, how will this affect you? I would love to know.
Friend, if you made it to the end of the video and you're not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now and I'll see you next week.